Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam.
Hare
Hare
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Mataji, Danvat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna Mataji.
Well, good to see all of you. So let us start with our Mangala Charanam. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurummilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right, welcome everyone to today's class. Hope you're all doing well. You had a nice weekend. I heard from a friend of mine that you all had a huge festival there, either Janmashtami or Radhastami in Pakistan, and it went like super viral, and you had like thousands and thousands of people coming, and it was like a whole thing that was liberating all the Hindus in Pakistan, that now we can practice our religion. And so congratulations. I'm guessing many of you were probably there, right? So
Yes,
happy to know that
Mataji,
you.
almost 10,000 people were there.
Wow,
Even
that's
more than
amazing.
10,000. Yeah.
More than 10,000. Yeah, and everyone was very grateful to ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada's movement, for facilitating that experience for everyone. Very good. Okay, well, we're making a dent in Maya. So, all right. So today we're picking up chapter 4. We're talking about the different sacrifices that people perform, different ways in which different groups of people control their senses as an offering to the Lord for the pleasure of the Lord. And now we're going to pick up from chapter 4, text 33. Yeah. So now this is kind of concluding that section about sacrifices, saying that what is the goal of all the sacrifices? So all of those different kinds of sacrifices, they have a common goal, and the common goal, Krishna tells us in text 33. So, and then, okay, let's just read text 33. Oh, Rocky, do you have a question or comment, or do
Yes,
you want to
Mataji,
read?
I have something confusing. As
Go
I
ahead.
was revising the previous chapters, so
Yeah.
3 topics were confusing me: Sankhya Yoga, Gyan Yoga, and Karma Yoga. How can I differentiate between these, and how can I couldn't explain this to anyone. This makes me confused.
Okay. So karma yoga means you're doing your work, right? Your karma means work, it means action. So it means you're acting, you're connecting your action. Yoga means connection. So you're connecting your actions to Krishna. And generally, karma yoga means you're doing your duty according to varnashram, right? Your prescribed duty according to your occupation, your varna, and your living your stage of life, your appropriate work for your social position, you're doing that and you're doing it as an offering to Krishna. Okay, that's karma yoga in a nutshell. And then Sankhya means counting. So Sankhya yoga is a way of trying to understand who God is. There's a small animal outside my window. There's a way of understanding God by observing and analyzing the world, right? Just looking at the universe and seeing how the sun is rising like this and that, and the moon and the cycles and the seasons and the, birth and death and growth, and just really studying the world and how everything is working here to try to understand like the purpose, the source, the creator behind it. And so Sankhites, they get into categorizing, counting and categorizing all the different elements, right? The five working senses, the five knowledge acquiring senses, the five gross elements, the three subtle elements. And basically they're like, okay, we're not this. I'm not earth, I'm not air, I'm not fire, I'm not water, I'm not ether, I'm not mind, I'm not intelligence, I'm not false ego, I'm not this, I'm not that. So what am I? And by observing and categorizing and going deep into the quest for finding the self and for finding God, you come to the realization that I'm none of these material things, right? Like the classic Sankhya exercise is what Prabhupada would say, point to your head, point to your arm, point to your leg, point to your chest, now point to you. So the conclusion is I'm none of these things. So that's kind of like where Sankhya goes. And then you realize the 25th element is the soul. Well, that's not a material element, but a spiritual element. And then beyond that is the source of all souls, the source of everything is Krishna. Okay, and then what was the other thing? Buddhi yoga?
Yes.
So Buddhi yoga, Buddhi means intelligence.
Yes.
So Buddhi yoga means using our intelligence to understand God. It means focusing, right? Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuranandana. So it means that having focused intelligence on the goal of life, which is reestablishing our relationship with the Lord and doing
Then what is
things
the
with
like
knowledge.
realizing that I'm not this body, I'm the soul? What is that?
All of those, right? I mean, that's like a fundamental spiritual principle that is common for all of them.
And what is the
So
difference between Sankhya and Buddhi yoga?
because with Sankhya, you're looking more outside at the world, and with Buddhi, you're looking more at your inner subtle body, mind, intelligence, ego, and connecting that to Krishna. It's more internal.
And Jnana yoga?
Gyan yoga means knowledge. You're after knowledge.
Can you give some example?
Like Gyanis, the path of Gyan, they study the Vedas, they study Vedanta Sutra, they meditate, they speculate, and they try to understand God through study and speculation.
Okay. Okay, Mother. Thank you.
Okay, so text 33, someone please read. Go ahead, Rocky.
O chastiser of enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pratha, all sacrifices of culminate in transcendental knowledge. Text 34.
Okay.
Just
No, you can
only
just
30.
stop. You can just,
Okay.
just for,
Okay.
we can pause there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Krishna is saying that all sacrifices, he just listed all the sacrifices, and he says all sacrifices culminate in transcendental knowledge. So all these different things, like, we were just looking at all the different types of yoga. All the different yogas are meant for connecting with Krishna, right? for us as souls to connect with Krishna, to understand Krishna, to know who we are in relationship to Krishna, to know how to serve Krishna. Right? That's the goal of all yoga systems, is bhakti yoga. And Krishna is saying here that the goal of all sacrifices is transcendental knowledge. And that's what this chapter is all about, is transcendental knowledge. So there are activities which lead us to transcendental knowledge, or activities which prepare, induce the Lord to reveal knowledge to us. Because transcendental knowledge comes mainly through mercy of the Lord. It comes through revelation. So we can read the Bhagavad Gita, but it's not going to change our life unless the Lord's mercy is added to it. Right? It's only by the Lord's mercy that this knowledge becomes realized. So the process of sacrifice is important. That's why we don't just read Bhagavad Gita, we also chant Hare Krishna, because that's the Sankirtan Yagya, that's the Yagya, that's the sacrifice that's recommended for this age. And by the combination of sacrifice and study is also a sacrifice, but by the combination of these two things, then we have realizations. Of course, not just chanting, but also serving, right? Doing service, we get realizations. So some of the sacrifices involved offering things, and Krishna is mentioning here that sacrifice of material possessions, that's one type of sacrifice. But he's saying that better than offering something material is the sacrifice of opening your mind to this knowledge, right? That's a sacrifice in itself, just opening your mind and taking the time to listen, to hear transcendental knowledge. Like all of you are here today, you set aside 2 hours of your evening, so many other things which you could be doing right now. And maybe you have things, that you're worrying about, like, right now that you're thinking, oh my God, I need to get that done, but I'm stuck in class, right? But anyways, you're making the sacrifice to be here, be present, put your attention here. That's a sacrifice. And Krishna is actually saying that that is the best sacrifice out of all the other sacrifices that were mentioned in the previous verses, is the sacrifice of opening your mind to transcendental knowledge. All the other sacrifices are meant to lead you to this point of actually coming to transcendental knowledge. And so there's different ways that you could look at this, and another way is that better than sacrificing material possessions is the sacrifice for obtaining knowledge. So this sacrifice is a sacrifice that you're doing for the sake of attaining knowledge. And Prabhupada says in the purport here, without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the mental platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. So just sacrifices, or for the sake of sacrifice, it becomes ritualistic and mechanical and basically useless, right? Prabhupada says bestows no spiritual benefit. So one thing is that we really need to know what we're doing and know why we're doing it. So if you're doing some sacrifice, some religious performance, you need to have knowledge, like, what is it? Why am I doing this? What's the purpose? Why this, that, the other thing? Why this mantra? Why this ritual? Why these circles? Why this paraphernalia? Like, what does this all mean? Otherwise, we don't get the benefit. And also, we have to understand that the purpose, that the reason why we're doing that sacrifice is to get knowledge. That's the whole purpose why we're getting. We're not just doing it to get some material thing or whatever. We're just to, fill up the program or something. We're doing it to be able to know God. We're trying to know Krishna. And this also reminds me of the last verse of chapter 17. Krishna says, anything done as a sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme is impermanent. It is asat and is both useless, both in this life and the next. So whatever sacrifice we're doing, we need knowledge of what we're doing. And we also need to have faith in the process. So those two things, if we have knowledge about what we're doing and we have faith in what we're doing, then we get the benefit. Otherwise, if those are missing, it's just mechanical and it doesn't bring any spiritual benefit. Then Prabhupada says, real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness. Without elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter onto the spiritual platform. So you see how important knowledge is? Knowledge basically brings our sacrifices or charity or austerities or any rituals that we perform, our devotional service, from the material platform to the spiritual platform. That's what makes it spiritual, is knowing why we're doing it. And then the result of doing it is that we get knowledge, further knowledge of Krishna. So that's why studying Bhagavad Gita, doing these Shastra courses is so important, because that's our introduction to this knowledge. And the more we study and the more we chant and the more we serve, the heart becomes purified and the knowledge goes deeper and deeper. And we enter into higher, our knowledge is elevated. Yeah, then he concludes by saying, depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, sometimes jnana kanda. But the best thing is when it ends in knowledge. Okay, now in the next 2 verses, Krishna is going to tell us how to get this knowledge. This is the secret. So we just heard that everything is useless without knowledge. We need to have knowledge. If we want anything to be spiritual, it has to be done with knowledge. So then how to get knowledge? Okay, let's read text 34 and 35.
Mataji, may I?
Yes, please.
Chapter 4, text 34. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls then impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. 35. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this is a secret here. For knowledge, we need to approach someone who knows, right? And we do that, right? That's why there are schools and universities, is because human beings need knowledge and we need to find someone who has knowledge and then sit there and listen to them, right? You want to know anything, you just find someone who knows and you just sit there and you ask questions and you hear what they have to say. So that's the process. And also you do some service. So you could say, like university, maybe you're not directly serving your professor, but you're paying your tuition. And that money is going to the university and the university is paying the professor. And so you're serving by basically donating. You're giving a donation forcibly, but albeit forcibly, you're still giving. So anyways, this system it's an age-old system. It's a timeless system, and it's ubiquitous for anybody who wants knowledge. But so we want spiritual knowledge. We don't want material knowledge, and so we have to approach a spiritual master, ask questions, have a submissive attitude, and also serve the spiritual master, follow the instructions of the spiritual master. And then when the spiritual master is pleased, and by their mercy, they impart knowledge because they have knowledge. They're tattvadarshina. They've seen the truth. They have seen tattva means categorical truth, right? We have Jiva tattva, Vishnu tattva, Shiva tattva, Shakti tattva, different tattvas. So in most materialistic people don't understand the difference between these tattvas, but there are those who have seen the tattvas and they see the differences and they can clarify it for us. And yeah, they know who God is. They know who we are. They know how we're meant to relate to him. And they can elucidate that. So yeah, there's a lot that can be said in relation to this guru-disciple relationship. There's two things that the spiritual master needs to be bona fide, needs to be tattva darshana or Krishna Dvaiti tattva. They need to understand the science of Krishna. And the disciple also needs to be qualified. So what's emphasized in this verse here is the qualifications of the disciple. Right? Disciple should be submissive. And Prabhupada says here that in the purport, such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender. So submissive, this is what submissive means, is full surrender. And one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. I'm reading from around the middle of the purport. So pari prashnena seva, and prashna means question, and pari means all around. Like the word English word perimeter means the distance around a shape or around a piece of land is the perimeter. So peri comes from pari, which means all around. Like parikrama means you walk, step around, right? So pari prashnena means you ask questions all around from every angle of vision, you know, you just ask all your questions, right? All your questions on the topic exhaustively. Ask questions to the spiritual master. Don't stop at every stage of your spiritual advancement. You go on asking questions. You don't come to the point where now I know everything, right? Disciple never has the attitude that now I know everything. If you think that now I know everything, you should consider yourself unfortunate. Because the more advanced we become, we realize that the less we actually know. Right, when I was teaching in Mayapur International School, I was teaching Bhakti Shastri to the high school students there. So most of them were born in devotee families. A lot of them had grown up in Mayapur, you know, devotee parents going to the temple all the time. And so their life was basically Krishna consciousness. So they came into my Bhakti Shastri class thinking, I know Krishna, I know Bhagavad Gita, I know everything basically about Krishna consciousness, even though they had never actually read the Bhagavad Gita. Anyway, so we started actually reading the Bhagavad Gita, and then one of the girls came up to me one day, and she was like 15, 16 years old. She came up to me and she said, you know what, I'm so grateful for this class because I thought that I knew the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and the more I come to class, the more I realize that I don't know anything. I don't know Bhagavad Gita. I don't know Krishna. I don't know what it means to be a devotee. Like I was just making all these assumptions about myself, already being a devotee and everything. So yeah, the more we know, the more we realize that the less we know, and the more we have to ask questions. And the more we have to beg for the mercy so that we can actually get transcendental knowledge. Because transcendental knowledge means knowledge beyond the senses. It's beyond the ability of our eyes to see, our ears to hear, our brains to process, our minds and intelligence to know. It's literally beyond all of our gross and subtle senses. Because Krishna is adokshaja, which literally means the senses. Aksha means the eyes, but the eyes are the head of all the senses. And dokshaja, ja means go. So it's beyond the ability of the senses to go. And the senses don't go there. And mind is also sense. Intelligence is also subtle material body. So these material senses can't go to a dokshaja. Literally his name means that. So transcendental knowledge is knowledge beyond the senses. And the only way that we can know it is by mercy that has to be bestowed upon us by the spiritual master, by devotees. And that's why, let's see. Anyways, recently I was in Mayapur for Gaur Purnima festival, and His Holiness Haladar Maharaj was giving a class there, and he was saying that nowadays it's very easy to just go into YouTube and listen to a class. You just go listen to so many classes out there, and transcendental topics and nice, senior devotees speaking online and things. And that's all good. It's better than nothing. It's better than not hearing at all. But there's a difference between just hearing a pre-recorded class and actually being in the class with a live teacher. Because in person is the best, but Zoom is second best. But the pre-recorded class is third best. And then after that, it's not very useful. Whatever, after that, it's like nothing at all, basically. So why is that? He said, because when you actually have a personal relationship with the teacher, you're with the live teacher, the teacher is seeing your face, seeing how you're paying attention, hearing your questions, responding to your questions, you're together. Then you don't just get what they're saying, but you also get their mercy, because mercy flows when there's a relationship. That's why you need to actually approach a spiritual master. You don't just, log into the YouTube and listen to the lecture. You actually approach them, you physically go to them and you ask questions personally. You ask a question, you listen submissively to the answer, and you also serve the person. And then when there's service, then you please the spiritual master. When the spiritual master is pleased, then they become very favorably inclined towards you. And then when they speak, they're not just giving dry philosophy. They're speaking to you personally with care, with affection, with a strong desire that you understand, praying to Krishna for his mercy, for him to give his mercy on you so that you can become strong in your spiritual life, so that you can really understand what Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, what Prabhupada is, elucidating for. So it's very personal. And without that personal touch, it can take a long time. You can listen to pre-recorded YouTube lectures for years and not come to the point of surrender. And so that relationship is very important. Yes, Krishna Priya?
Hi, Krishna Mataji. I have two questions. One, I want to ask on behalf of Seemal Sindhu Mataji because her network issue is not stable. So she wants to ask that there is a line in the purport. It says, Prabhupada says, one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant. So she wants you to explain this line.
Yeah, menial servant means you do, like cleaning the room of the spiritual master, washing the clothes of the spiritual master, washing the dishes, just like a menial servant, like a menial servant does, cleaning the floor, bringing the shoes, massaging the feet, or like that. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. And other question is that I want to ask, you mentioned that why we have to approach the spiritual master because we want to know about
Sorry, just a
spirituality.
sec. Let me say a little bit more about the menial service. So menial service, it means, I've given some examples, but basically it means that we should serve humbly, right? With a humble attitude. It's less about like actually physically what we're doing, because if the spiritual master gives an instruction, then if the instruction is to go and give a lecture at a program with 10,000 people sitting there, then you might think that's not menial service, right? But it just means basically having the humility to accept whatever the spiritual master wants us to do. Because many of us don't have the opportunity to do those kinds of vapu seva, right? Washing the clothes or peeling potatoes for the spiritual master's lunch or cleaning his dishes or his room or something like that. So the principle is that we should just be humble and be ready to accept whatever it is that the spiritual master wants us to do. So that could be any number of things. It's more about the mood and less about what you're actually physically doing. Yeah, without false prestige. See, that's what the thing is. Not that I'm so great, my spiritual master is, so we are very close and he gives me exalted services, like not having that puffed up mood that I'm better than other disciples. I'm just a lowly, fallen soul in this world who's totally helpless, and only by the mercy of my spiritual master can I do anything. And also, like, we see that even Krishna, when he was in school with Sandipani Muni, he was doing menial services, right? He was going out and collecting firewood. Sometimes the spiritual master in the traditional Vedic system would send the disciples out begging. So they'd go door to door asking for donations or begging for money or food or whatever the spiritual master needed, and bringing it back to the ashram of the spiritual master. So just being prepared to do anything and everything humbly. Okay, go ahead. What's the second question?
The second is, Mataji, you mentioned that we have to approach spiritual master that to know the transcendental Krishna, which is Adhokshaja. So that's why
Yeah.
the word spiritual. But at the same time, you explain Pariprashnena means we have to ask the question from all around, like from all the vision. So we are
Yeah.
approaching him for spiritual topics. So should we ask him some material questions like regarding family issues and which are like not beyond our senses, and other material questions like marriage issues and these kinds of questions. So should we approach a spiritual master for material questions?
We're trying to learn the truth, right? There are different things that we need to know. So in our conditional existence, there are some things that we need knowledge we need in relation to the material world, and knowledge we need in relation to the spiritual world. So yeah, the spiritual master is a spiritual master, not a material master. So basically we're supposed to ask, questions related to Krishna consciousness. And yeah, all around the topics of Krishna consciousness. We're not going to ask, what's the best financial investment? Should I get Bitcoin or whatever, Ethereum or Dogcoin or whatever they are? Which one of these should I get? Or should I move to this place or that one? Or well, how about this house? Is it too big? Or should I get some small apartment? Like, we're not going to ask the spiritual master those kinds of questions. If we do, spiritual master is going to end up, being like, oh my God, this disciple. Yeah, so we can get advice from other people, like our parents or uncle or, friend or business partner, or, get a financial consultant or whatever, somebody because also in most cases, the spiritual master is going to be someone who's been absorbed in Krishna consciousness for so long. Maybe they're a sannyasi. They're not in touch with those things. You're not going to ask a sannyasi about your marriage problems. You're not going to ask someone who's just been preaching, who's given up any kind of efforts to make money decades ago about, anything financial or whatever. Just it doesn't make sense. Why would you ask somebody? You need to ask an expert. So a spiritual master, even though we say they're representative of God, they're not omniscient the way Krishna is, right? They're experts in the spiritual science, and they can answer questions on anything related to Krishna consciousness, but they may not give the best relationship advice for your marriage, or how to raise children or like that. They can give you general principles related to bhakti and how to connect those things to bhakti, so that you can try to keep Krishna in the center of all those things. But as far as the nuts and bolts of the material side of those things, is like they may not be the best person to ask. And they may not be very happy being asked about those things either.
But Mataji, I've seen many devotees who are saying that if we can't ask these questions to spiritual master, then they just give example of Bhagavad Gita. Like Arjuna has also confusion about his duty, and that duty was he was not able to perform his duty because of his family relationships. So he's going to Krishna, so he's accepting Krishna as a spiritual master. So usually this kind of debate come in front of devotees. So if Arjuna can accept can ask Krishna about these questions, and why we can't, so how we should tackle these kinds of questions?
Yeah. I mean, Arjuna was just confused about his duty, right? He was confused. What do I do? So you can go to your spiritual master and be like, what do I do? And then spiritual master is going to tell you what Krishna told Arjuna. You're a soul. You need to surrender and serve me. That's it. Right? And then the service that Krishna wanted Arjuna to surrender and do was fight. So, yeah. The thing is that most of us don't want those kinds of answers, right? If you go with you're having a crisis in your career or something, you go to the guru, and guru is going to be like, look, you're a soul. You just need to fully surrender to Krishna and serve Krishna. Then that's not what we're looking for. I mean, you can try, and it also depends on your relationship with the guru, right? If you have a close relationship with the guru, that they actually know you very well and they know all the details of your the material side of your life, then they can help you. But oftentimes they don't really know all those details. So they don't have the context. They don't understand the context.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, so Srila Prabhupada says, satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. So yeah, this is probably often said, the secret of success in spiritual life. Everyone wants to be successful in spiritual life. The secret of success is satisfying the self-realized spiritual master. And yeah, we see Srila Prabhupada as a prime example of that, because his spiritual master told him, you're an intelligent young man. Why don't you go and spread Krishna consciousness, preach Lord Chaitanya's message in the English-speaking countries? So Srila Prabhupada, he took a great leap of faith, and he got on that Jaladuta with no money, and he went to a place where he'd never been before, and he didn't know anyone, and he just went just to satisfy the self-realized spiritual master, and everything, ended up being so successful in every way. Not only was it the secret of success for Srila Prabhupada's own life, but it was the secret of success. It ended up being the success for all of our lives, right? Because Prabhupada hadn't done that, ISKCON wouldn't be here, basically. There would be no ISKCON, and Krishna consciousness would just be only in India, and maybe not even by now. If there was no ISKCON, just imagine if Srila Prabhupada hadn't come to this world, if he hadn't, gotten on that Jaladuta, because Krishna consciousness took off in India only after Prabhupada spread it in America. Prabhupada was trying to spread Krishna consciousness in India, and he was just getting frustrated. Everything was failing. He went to Jhansi, failed. He was distributing books, nobody was interested. He even got knocked down by a cow, was lying there on the side of the road. It was just not happening. It was difficult. He wasn't, he was poor. He was, having to choose between whether he was going to eat or buy paper for printing. One time he went, he hadn't eaten at all because he was saving all the money for paper. He went and bought paper, and then he got such a heavy weight of paper, he had to get a rickshaw. So he paid, 1 rupee or whatever for the rickshaw at that time to carry the paper, and Prabhupada went walking beside the rickshaw because he didn't want to get another rickshaw for himself. So Prabhupada was like really struggling in India. And he started something in Jhansi, he got shut down. His godbrothers also were not, he wasn't able to work with them. Even the business everything was failing. And only when he went to America, then he started Krishna consciousness. Then he brought his dancing white elephants. He brought, his American disciples over to India. And then Indian people started taking notice. Oh, wow. White people practicing Krishna consciousness, dhotis and saris and tilak and chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, let's see. Let's look in. Let's explore this. So they started taking it seriously, and only then did Krishna consciousness become established in India. And he started building temples with the money that his American and European disciples were collecting by distributing books. That money was going to start build temples in India, and those devotees were making Indian devotees. And now Krishna consciousness is booming, in India. So, but if Prabhupada had never gone to the West, who knows what it would be like now in India? It'd be a very different country. And yeah, what to speak of Pakistan. I don't know what would be going on there, right? It's only because of ISKCON that everybody else is able to actually, practice worshiping Krishna on Janmashtami, worshiping Radharani on Radhastami. So, can't even imagine what a dark situation the world would be in now if Srila Prabhupada hadn't done what he did for the satisfaction of his spiritual master. So you can see how when we surrender to the Guru, then so much mercy is there. It comes to us and it spills over to other people, everybody around us, and then it keeps spilling over because it's eternal, right? Everything spiritual is eternal. So the mercy that we get from Krishna is also eternal. It doesn't just come to us and stop. It just keeps eternally going and going and going and going, and it affects everybody for all time. So Prabhupada says, unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. So, yeah, spiritual understanding is a blessing. It comes by the blessing of the Guru. And we have to pass the test of the spiritual master. So, yeah, there's a spiritual master before bestowing his blessings has to make sure that we're sincere. Like one time Prabhupada was on a train and he was there with 2 or 3 sannyasi disciples. They were traveling in one compartment of the train. And then these 2 Indian men came and they with folded hands and bowing heads and Swamiji. So Prabhupada welcomed them into the compartment. They sat down and Prabhupada said, yes, how can I help you? He said, oh, Swamiji, please give me your blessings. Please give me your mercy. And Srila Prabhupada said, oh, you want my blessings? And they said, yes, 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 Swamiji, please. So Prabhupada said that these disciples of mine, they've received my full blessing. I've given them my full blessings. So you want to be like them? And the men were like, no, Swamiji, that's not the blessings that we want. And Srila Prabhupada said, well, that's the nature of my blessing. So you decide whether you want or not. And they're like, but thank you very much, Swamiji, thank you. And they just left. So they didn't pass the test. So the test is, are you actually interested in Krishna? Are you actually ready to surrender to Krishna? Do you really want to realize your eternal constitutional position as a servant of Krishna? Do you really want to go back home, back to Godhead? Or do you just want to enjoy this material world? So, yeah, if you just want to enjoy the material world, then the spiritual master's blessings are not going to help you, because spiritual master's blessings are going to destroy your material enjoyment. They're going to make you understand. They're going to make you give the ability to see this world for what it is, which is dukkhalayam ashashvatam, right? A place of unhappiness, misery, where everything is just temporary and everything leads to disappointment and frustration. But if we really want to get close to Krishna, then those blessings will be there. We pass the test, we get genuine spiritual understanding. And then what is that genuine spiritual understanding? Then that says, Krishna says in the next verse, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you'll never again fall into such illusion. So we get free from Maya, the illusion. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So then by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the spiritual understanding, we come to see everyone as eternal spirit souls. Everyone is a part and parcel of Krishna, that everyone is Krishna's eternal servant. Everything is Krishna's energy, that everything is Krishna's. Everything and everyone is just Krishna's. And when we start seeing everything in relation to Krishna as Krishna's property, Krishna's energies, Krishna's servants, then we stop seeing everything as mine, as for my own enjoyment. And then our desires to control and enjoy and lord it over this material world are just done. They're just gone. And I'm also Krishna's. I'm Krishna's energy. My body belongs to Krishna. My mind belongs to Krishna. My intelligence comes from Krishna. It's also his. Myself as a soul, I'm an expansion of Krishna, part and parcel of Krishna. And so is everybody else and everything else. So everything is just meant for Krishna's pleasure. And we can only be happy by Krishna being happy because we're parts of Krishna. So that's real knowledge. And then with that vision, that spiritual vision, then we're never going to fall again into such illusion. Why? Because we can see it for what it is. And we can see that it's just painful, it's just temporary, it's just not a place to be. So Prabhupada says in the purport to text 35, the sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. So this is very fundamental, that just that nothing, the fact is, the truth is that nothing exists separately from Krishna. It's impossible for anyone or anything to exist separately from Krishna. Yeah. So the biggest Maya is thinking that I don't need Krishna. Like some countries, one time I was in London and distributing books so I stopped this British woman and I was showing her a book and things, and then she said, people here in England, most of us are not atheists. Most of us, if you ask the question deeply, then people will say that they believe in God, but it's not that we don't believe in God, we just think that he's irrelevant. Like, we don't need him. We're quite fine without him. So we don't need to pray. We don't need to go to church. Everything is going fine without him. That's what she said. And I was just like, oh my God. So much illusion. So yeah, that's Maya, the sense of an existence separate from Krishna. Thinking that anything is separate from Krishna. That's the cause of all confusion, all illusion, all fear, all suffering. We can't even breathe without Krishna. We can't see without Krishna. Everything just comes from Krishna. It is Krishna. Achintya Abheda Abheda Tattva. So. So now, in the purport also, Srila Prabhupada relates this to Arjuna. By Maya alone, Arjuna thought that the temporary bodily relationship with his kinsmen was more important than his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. So that's a problem, right? This is a very common problem even amongst devotees, that we think that our temporary bodily relationships with our families are more important than our eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. And that way, sometimes family life can become a big obstacle to Krishna consciousness because our families want us to do one thing and Krishna wants us to do another. And we prioritize satisfying our families over satisfying Krishna. So the whole teaching of the Gita is targeted towards this end, that a living being, as Krishna's eternal servitor, cannot be separated from Krishna. And his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. Then Prabhupada says, the living entities, as separate parts and parcels of the Supreme, have a purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies as men, animals, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from the bona fide spiritual master, and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul, Krishna, is the supreme shelter for all living entities. Yeah, so that's part of the tattva, right? Tattva darshana. The spiritual master can make us understand that we never become equal with Krishna. We're categorically different from Krishna. We are always Jiva tattva, and he is always Vishnu tattva, Krishna tattva. And we are always his servants, and he is always our shelter. Okay. Then Prabhupada ends by saying, liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Krishna. Okay, so basically what Krishna is saying with this verse is that this knowledge, when we approach a spiritual master, inquire submissively, render service, then we get knowledge, because he has knowledge, he can give knowledge, he has bhakti, he can give bhakti, he has faith, he can give us faith, he has realization, he can give us realization. Then that becomes a game changer for us. It changes everything. It changes our whole perspective on the world, on our life, on our identity, our relationships with other people, everything. It just becomes a total game changer for our lives. So if you have heard or read or, gotten a question answered and it didn't change your life, keep asking, keep approaching, keep serving, because the result didn't, it's supposed to change. Or look within your own hearts and see what are the obstacles. Why is the knowledge or why is the mercy not permeating? Why is it not getting through? Because our hearts are like stones. They're impervious, right? Stone-like heart. The water is falling on it, but it's just falling by the wayside. So we need to keep chanting, try to soften the heart, make it like butter. Let it melt, right? It should change its form. Like the block of butter in the freezer, it's like a hard block, right? You can dump water on it, you can press it, it doesn't do any, it doesn't change. But when the butter becomes soft, then you press it and it just mushes, right? It can change the form very easily, it becomes liquid, it flows like that. So we need to soften the heart, warm it up, do some heart-warming chanting. And then we'll experience a transformation. Okay. Any questions about this? Guru, disciple, getting knowledge from the realized soul, how that transforms our lives if it's done properly. Yes, Daya.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, I have done IDC course and I have asked this question already, but I'm asking it again because I feel there's need. Like how to choose spiritual master? The question I got the answer is that you have to listen consistently to that personality, to any personality in which you are find that I can understand the things he is conveying me and he is like explaining me. You feel like connectivity that personality, then you will go to like you will choose that as your spiritual master. But I'm like in a like confusion that how is that like by listening and I haven't listened anybody yet, but still I want to know how it is going to help me. And what if that if I am listening a personality and I feel connected for 6 months, and after that 6 month he has stopped giving initiation, then
The person stops giving initiation, so you're aspiring for them, and they're just like, sorry, I'm not taking any more disciples.
Hmm. That
Yeah,
means I'm not like eligible, and I'm not yet. s-
yeah. Well, we have to pray to Krishna. Right now, the guru situation in ISKCON is a little difficult, to say the least. Yeah, we really need to work. I mean, ISKCON as a movement, ISKCON leadership really needs to work on getting more gurus and younger generation of gurus. We need many, many more gurus who can give shelter to many, many souls like yourselves that are coming up and becoming serious about Krishna consciousness. There's so much need for guidance and shelter and spiritual leadership, like genuine, pure spiritual leadership in our society. So slowly, yeah, there are slowly they're authorizing more devotees to do the service of Diksha Guru, of initiating disciples. So yeah, you just need to find those. I think it's difficult for you all, from what I've heard from Bimla Prasad, is not many devotees go to Pakistan, right? Because the situation maybe is a little challenging. Um, yeah. So it's hard to get that personal association, right? But yeah, I mean, what Bimla Prasad Prabhu is doing with organizing this course is a really great thing, because I know he's like bending over backwards to try to give you all association of really nice devotees, different senior devotees and ISKCON leaders and Diksha gurus and Shiksha gurus. And, he's reaching out to these, great personalities, Prabhupada's disciples and gurus, like at least just give one class, just at least one class. So it's really nice. And yeah, you all are so blessed. Can see like Bhima Prasad, he's very, very caring and compassionate devotee. And yeah.
Mataji, he remain always there. If we have any doubt, I'm actually he's the one. Because of him, we got so many things, got exposures to us. Because without him, like
Mm.
so many things, we are not knowing these things. And he is like he's the biggest blessing of Krishna for us. We are
Nice.
always
Yeah.
grateful to have him.
So yeah, so you're going to meet some, in the course of your Bhakti Shastri course, you're going to meet some Diksha gurus. And so take advantage, of their association and ask questions. Hari Prashnina say, ask questions. And I mean, nowadays in the world, sometimes you can even do service remotely, you know, uh, for these different devotees. And, try to strike up a relationship where you can, even when the course is done, you can continue, you can send emails, you can have Zoom calls or whatever, ask questions, find ways to serve, get to know them better. And then, you can have a lifetime of spiritual shelter, even if you don't take initiation from the person, but at least you can have shiksha, you can have guidance. And that's very important, just as important as initiation, if not more important, really, because it's the guidance, it's that guidance that helps us. Initiation is kind of like a formality, it's an important formality, but it's a formal connection to the parampara, which is essential. But really the real essence of the guru disciple relationship is instruction and guidance and answering questions and helping us through, helping us to keep making steps forward in our spiritual life. Okay, Krishna Priya.
I just want to add one point, Mataji. As you mentioned that mercy flows through when there is a relationship. So his case, Vimla Prasad Prabhu, he tried a lot to get all Prabhupada's disciple at least for a unit, so that we can make a relationship with them. Because as Pakistani devotees, have only the opportunity to listen them online, but still we make the excuses that we don't have time, we don't know how to choose to listen them. But Prabhuji tried a
Mm.
lot, and he's preparing since many years. And
Mm.
by the mercy of Krishna, he got this chance, and finally he called so many disciples, and now there are so many devotees here. And I think, like Prabhu also said, that now they will know how to choose a guru, and because he's getting the best of ISKCON. So
Mm.
yes, as Daya Mataji said, that yes, Vimla Prasad Prabhu is kind of a blessing to all of us, Mataji. So I just wanted to add that point.
Jai. Bimala Prasad ki jai.
Yeah.
I wonder, is he here?
No, he will join late today.
Okay. All right. Good. So, all right. Anything else about this?
Yes, Mataji, I have some question.
Yes. Go ahead.
Mataji, is it okay, like taking guidance, as you say, it is important to taking guidance of a guru and connected with him. So if we are not taking initiation and not taking the shelter of a guru, in my life, as I am vegetarian, but my husband's, when I stopped taking non-veg, so my husband say it's okay if you're taking if you're not taking non-veg, please don't ever say to stop having onion and garlic. So uh, there are some rules of ISKCON. So if I'm not stop taking onion and garlic, so I can't follow the rules properly. So how could I take shelter of Guru?
Well, that's something you can discuss, with the guru. I mean, when we take our vows, the vow is no meat, fish, or eggs. The vow
Yes,
is not no onions, no garlic, right? But we know that, onions and garlic are what not offerable to Krishna.
yes.
So because Krishna doesn't take those things, then and we eat only Krishna prasadam, then if we
Mm,
cook with onions and garlic, then how are we going to offer it? Right? That's the
mm,
problem.
mm.
So yeah. I mean, what you could do is when you're cooking, when you put the ghee or the oil in the pan and you first fry the onions and garlic, then you add the other things. So then
Yes,
you
of
just
course.
have
It's not difficult at my home as I'm making
right.
or something. Like if
Yeah.
I'm going out somewhere or with in my relative's house, so they won't be able to make such things that are without onion and garlic. So it's
Yeah.
really difficult to avoid these things that I'm not taking. Or if I'm going in a restaurant and I will say to my husband that I will not take it because it's onion and garlic food. So it's very difficult for me to avoid these things.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that situation where you just can't avoid them at all, you just explain your situation to Krishna. You just be like, Krishna, um, really sorry about my situation right now. If you so desire, please kindly, make my family willing to accept, these dietary restrictions. In the meantime, situations arise where I might have to eat these things. Wait, who's talking?
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking that taking shelter of Guru is very important. But in my life, I sometimes I feel it's very difficult for me. How could I take shelter of Guru? Because there are some
Well,
rules.
you just discuss it with your guru. I don't think it's necessarily means that you can't get initiated, right? Because it's not the initiation vows. You can still maintain your initiation vows, even if like occasionally in a situation where it's inevitable, then sometimes you have to take those things. I know one time the devotees went to a home program. They were in with Srila Prabhupada. They went to the house of this wealthy Indian family, and they had cooked for them a whole big feast. And so the devotees were going through, they had like a buffet style. So the devotees were standing there, and the hosts were serving. And one of the sabjis, they could see that there was like onions in it. They could see like big pieces of onion. And one of the devotees, and there were sannyasi disciples of Prabhupada there, so they were saying, "Oh, there's onions in this sabji." And then Srila Prabhupada heard them, and Srila Prabhupada said, "There are no onions in the sabji. You can eat it." And they said, "No, Srila Prabhupada, we can see there are onions." And Prabhupada said, "There are no onions. There are no onions in the sabji." Like Prabhupada is being a little like don't make a big deal. Like don't make a drama. Just take the sabji and eat the sabji and don't worry about it. I'm telling you, just because he didn't want the hosts to feel bad. So, like in an emergency, like we have to use our common sense. We shouldn't, we should try to maintain the highest standard possible for ourselves personally, but we shouldn't come off as like fanatics in that sense. Of course, we're not going to eat meat. We make it very clear that we're not going to take meat, fish, or eggs. That's our vow. But sometimes, if there's onions or there's mushrooms or whatever, those things don't break the initiation vows. It's not the highest standard because it's like mode of passion, mode of ignorance, but it doesn't mean that we're like, sinful rascals going to hell and hopeless and can never get initiated. It's not that bad. It's not the highest standard, but it's not a bar from initiation. But it's something you need to discuss with your spiritual master before initiation and just make it very clear. And I think if we're sincere, then it's just a matter of time before Krishna will give us a situation where we don't have to eat those things.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. But as long as if we have a choice in the matter, we should always choose no onions, no garlic. Just in a situation where we don't have any choice, it's going to be a big, disaster. Everyone's going to hate us, and everyone's going to think that ISKCON is so fanatical. It's impossible to deal with these ISKCON people, and like that. So, okay. All right. So now the second part of this. Now we're kind of concluding the section about spiritual master. And the last verses of this chapter are all glorifying transcendental knowledge in different ways. And they're talking about how, like we said, that this transcendental knowledge can literally change our destiny. Okay, so let's read 36. Let's go ahead and read 36 to 39.
Mataji, may I?
Yes.
Text 36. If you are considered to be the most sinful or of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Text 37. But as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Text 38. In this world there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge, so such knowledge is the major fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. Text 39. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace.
Yeah, thank you. So, text 36, Krishna says that knowledge is like a boat. It says Jnana Plava. So Plava means boat. He says this knowledge is like a boat because it carries us across the ocean of miseries. Prabhupada says this material world is sometimes regarded as an ocean of nescience, sometimes as a blazing forest. In the ocean, however expert a swimmer one may be, a struggle for existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is the greatest savior. So, yeah, we're here in this ocean of repeated birth and death. It's full of so many miseries, and we're trying to swim across the ocean, and the waves are coming and pushing us under and thrashing us. There's dangerous creatures, there's sharks and different kinds of fish and octopuses and stingrays, and there's all kind of creatures there that can devour us in the water, and it's cold, and yeah, it's a very dangerous and miserable situation. And so if someone comes along with a boat and throws down a ladder, rope ladder, then we can climb up, and they take us by the hand, pull us up onto the boat, and then everything is good. We can dry off, put on dry clothes, have a nice warm meal to eat, and be happy there in the boat. So transcendental knowledge is like that. It's the boat. So when we get real knowledge from a bona fide spiritual master, it's like we got lifted up onto the boat, and now we're in a good situation where we can be transcendental, above and beyond a lot of the miseries of life. Not that we're not going to have some miseries, still going to be miseries, because even on the boat, sometimes there's a storm, the boat rocks, maybe we'll get a little seasick sometimes, but still we're making progress, right? The boat, even if it's rocking, the boat's going forward. Even if there's rain, the boat's going forward. Even if we're seasick and vomiting over the edge of the boat, but still the boat's going forward, and we're going with it. So we need to we need to get on the boat by getting transcendental knowledge, taking the shelter of spiritual masters, and just stay on the boat no matter what happens. And then by that boat we will cross, and we'll reach the lotus feet of Krishna. Then in text 37, he uses a different metaphor. He says, Jnana Agni. In the third line, he says, Jnana Agni Sarva Karmani. So he says, this knowledge is Agni, it's fire. It's like a fire. And how? Because it burns to ashes all the reactions to our material activities. Prabhupada says here in the purport that the fire not only burns up all the reactions of impious activities, but even to pious activities. And it burns up not only the karma that we have in this lifetime, but all stages of reaction. Reaction in the making, reaction fructifying, reaction already achieved, reaction a priori. So everything. Good karma, bad karma, karma that we're experiencing now, karma that's waiting for us for future lifetimes, karma that's manifest, karma that's unmanifest, karma that's in the seed, karma that's in the making. All of it just burns to ashes. Just like if you have a big blazing fire, you can put anything in it and it's going to get burnt. You put this kind of wood, that kind of wood, you put paper, you put cardboard, you put plastic, you put, even something that's wet and soggy. The fire is so hot, it will burn everything. If you even put, like a potato in there, it's going to burn it up into ashes. So, yeah, so that's devotional. This transcendental knowledge is that kind of fire. So hot, it burns up everything. So somebody might say, oh, please burn up my bad karma, but I want to keep my good karma. But the thing is that good karma, I think we talked about this, good karma is also bad, right? Because as long as we have any kind of karma, good or bad, we have to stay in this material world in order to experience that karma, in order to live out the reactions to our activities, which means we might have to take birth again. So we don't want to take birth again. We don't want to end up back down into that cold ocean with crashing waves and sharks and things in it. Stay on the boat. Okay, then text 38, he says that this knowledge is so sublime and it's so pure, there's nothing more sublime, nothing more pure, nothing more purifying than this knowledge. And yeah, just like you said before, that this is the result of all of our sacrifices. It's the result of all of our austerity is getting this knowledge. So he says it's the mature fruit of all mysticism. So you spend the fruit is the result of the tree, right? You plant a seed and you water it and you get a sprout and some leaves, and then it grows and then it starts to branch out and then it keeps growing and becomes a tall tree after many years, maybe decades. And then it produces flowers, and then finally it produces fruits. And then the fruits are green and hard and sour, so you have to wait. And then finally they start getting, the color comes, they become like apples, they become red, or mangoes, they'll start becoming yellow, and then they'll become orange, and then they'll become soft, and then they'll become aromatic. And then, so that mature fruit is transcendental knowledge. It's the mature fruit of all of our practices, right? Everything that we do, all religious, all spiritual activities, all sacrifices, charity, austerity, studies, everything. It's the mature fruit. So that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting to get transcendental knowledge, to really know who is Krishna, to know who we are, right? Because right now we don't even know who we are. Our knowledge is so meager. We have such that we literally don't even know who we are. We have this material body, that's not me. We have a material mind, that's not me. We have all of these, qualities, that's not me either. We don't have a clue even who we are, right? We have an eternal spiritual form, we have eternal spiritual personality, we have eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. We have, in the spiritual world, we have our transcendental family and friends, and, we have so many things we don't know. So we're waiting for the fruit to ripen, or we're waiting, maybe the fruit's not even there. We're waiting for the tree to grow, or we're just digging a hole in the ground and putting some cow dung in there, and we haven't even planted the seed yet. We're at different stages. So waiting for that seed to be planted, and then we can water it by our hearing and chanting, and then it grows and grows. And we go through different stages of spiritual growth. And we eventually come to higher stage of devotion, right? Go through Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha. So now you all have a little Shraddha, or you wouldn't be here. And you all have some Sadhu Sangha, because here we are together. And you're doing Bhajana Kriya, because you're studying, right? That's a way of bhajan, worshiping Krishna with our intelligence by studying Bhagavad Gita, plus all other services that you're doing, chanting japa and doing service. So that's bhajana kriya. And anartana vritti is coming, right? You get purified. That's what it's saying here, that this knowledge is so purifying. And then we become steady, become fixed in spiritual life, and we start getting a taste, right? The fruit is starting to ripen. It's giving off some aroma. It's smelling good. And then ruchi, asakti, we become attached to that fruit, and we're just waiting. And then bhava means, the flowers. And then the ripe fruit is Krishna prema, love for Krishna. So when our knowledge is mature, then it transforms into love, pure love. That's the mood of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, right? The eternal Brajvasis, talking about the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan, like Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, the coward boys, the gopis, Srimati Radharani. So what happens is that there's less emphasis on knowledge and more emphasis on love, right? The relationships with Krishna are totally infused with love. So that's what happens to us, is that as our knowledge becomes more and more mature, then it just transforms into love. And then our relationship with Krishna is less knowledge-based, and it just is totally based on love. The knowledge goes into the background. But without the knowledge, we're never going to get to love. It's just like, milk, you're milking the cow. So you get so much milk, and then from that milk you get cream, and that cream you get butter, and butter you get ghee. And then ghee you can do so many things. So, but if you don't have milk, you're never going to get ghee, right? So first you need to have a cow and milk the cow and do the work, and right. So we need to get knowledge, and then we go churning the knowledge, right? We take the essence of the knowledge, which is Krishna Bhakti, and then we churn that. So we're churning the knowledge, and then we get butter, and then we put that butter on the fire of our devotional practices, and then it becomes ghee. So like that, we're studying now, and we're getting knowledge, just beginning knowledge, because Bhagavad Gita is the beginning. So we're getting the milk, right? And then as you go on studying and again reading Bhagavad Gita and hearing and doing your devotional practices, then you start getting the cream. You start actually like realizing this knowledge. And then you start churning. The more you share your realizations and serve according to your realizations, then that's churning the cream or the yogurt or whatever you're churning. And then you get butter. And then you take that butter and you put it on the steady flame of your fixed devotional practices, right? Because to make ghee, if you ever made ghee, you need to put it on a low flame, but it needs to be steady for a long period of time. You need to keep it over that flame for hours and hours, right? It's not quick. It takes many hours to make the butter into ghee. So when our service is steady over a long period of time, then then our knowledge transforms in quality, right? The butter becomes ghee. Our knowledge becomes love. It turns into love. And then butter, if you keep butter outside at room temperature, what happens? It goes rancid. It goes bad. You can't use it. It smells bad and it becomes off, right? But ghee, you can leave at room temperature. It'll last for years and years and years. It doesn't go bad because, so like that, when we have love for Krishna, then that lasts forever, right? Then that's it. Stage of love for Krishna, that's eternal. So that's what we need to get. So first knowledge, and then it transforms by Krishna's mercy, by mercy of Guru and Krishna, it becomes love. So text 39, then Krishna says, who gets this knowledge? Who's eligible for this knowledge? So he says, Shraddhava labhate jnanam, a faithful person, someone who has Shraddha, Shraddhavan, then he achieves this knowledge. Tat para means he becomes attached to this knowledge. Okay, so it's like, when you start studying Shastra in Krishna consciousness, the Bhakti Shastras, it's like, you need some faith. So all of you have faith. All of you here are Shraddhavan. You have some faith. And then when you study, because you have faith and you study and you take it very seriously, you try to really take it to heart and apply it. And by doing that, what happens is tatpara, you become attached to it. You cling to this knowledge. It's like you take shelter of this knowledge and you want more knowledge, right? Attachment means you want more and more. You become greedy. Like if you're attached to something, you become greedy for more and more. So you become greedy for more. Then you can't stop. After Bhakti Shastra, you have to do Bhakti Vaibhava. After Bhakti Vaibhava, you have to do Bhakti Vedanta. And you just can't stop because you're attached to this knowledge. So, yeah. And but in order to come to that stage of really being attached to transcendental knowledge, we have to be a little detached from the material world. So Krishna says, samya tendriya, fully controlled senses. when the senses are fully under control, then then we can actually achieve this knowledge. So who gets this knowledge? One who believes in it, who has faith in it, who makes it the center of their life, and who controls the senses. And then having received it, one attains spiritual peace. Param Shantim, the supreme spiritual peace. And he says, Achirena. Achirena adigachati. Achirena means not very long time, right? Actually in a short time, quickly. It says, having achieved it, one quickly. So as soon as you come to this knowledge, very quickly, you attain this, you become peaceful. That's how potent it is. Okay. So in all these ways, this knowledge has the power to change our destiny, because our destiny is based on our karma, but transcendental knowledge obliterates all of our karma. It just takes all of our karma, it just packs it into a pipe ball, and it just throws it far away. Gone. Burns to ashes. So now, what is our destiny? It's not determined by our karma, good karma or bad karma or previous karma or current. It's not determined by karma. You can take your whole astrological chart, your natal chart, and you can just throw it in the garbage. It's meaningless. After you surrender to Krishna and you get transcendental knowledge, that thing doesn't apply anymore. So now, what is determining your destiny? Krishna. That's it. Krishna is personally just taking care of you, making all arrangements in your life, and of course our own desires. So at that point, we have to be very careful to desire Krishna, to desire spiritual advancement, to make choices in our life that show Krishna that we are with him. We're not turning back. And then Krishna will keep rewarding us and facilitating our journey forward on this boat of transcendental knowledge. So it's very, very powerful. And Krishna says this boat is open to everyone, even if you're the most sinful of all sinners. Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. Nobody's too sinful. Like there's a saying that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. Right? That means everyone now who is a saint, they weren't always a saint. Right? They have a past. They have a lot of darkness there in the past. And that means that every sinner, so anyone who's now a sinner, they have a future. They can become a saint in the future. So that gives hope. The only difference between the sinner and the saint is that the sinner is ignorant and the saint has transcendental knowledge. So we need to get this transcendental knowledge, and it can transform us. Okay, so now after emphasizing the power of transcendental knowledge, Krishna is going to tell Arjuna how to use this knowledge to clear up his doubts and help him do his duty. Oh, question by Rocky.
That's not everyone said. Mataji, as you says about desires. So if I have not any desires for myself, but I have some desires for my children. Like I want to see them successful. I want to make them happy. I want to give them all facilities. So are these desires are all really bondage with for myself? Or it is okay to have desire for your children but not for yourself?
Well, you want your children to be happy, but happy means Krishna conscious, right? You can't be happy without Krishna consciousness.
Yes,
So
but in material world, I want them to make happy or being a successful person in their life. So, of course, having money for them. So is it okay, or it is a bondage?
I mean, we can always put those desires to Krishna as if you so desire, right? Tell Krishna, my main thing is that I want my child to be Krishna conscious, to become your devotee, and to go back to Godhead at the end of this life. And in the meantime, if you so desire, you can also make him a millionaire or, whatever, ensure that he has good health, that he gets a nice wife and, whatever else, you think is going to make him happy. But just those are not really the, uh, the way to happiness. Happiness means
Definitely,
Krishna conscious.
I don't teach my children to have a lot of money for the happiness. That's not okay. I told them that the real happiness is in the Krishna consciousness, and you have to pray for His mercy and all about that. But being in a material world, uh, I want to make them uh, something independent or like that.
Main thing, see, the whole society is going to push the children in that direction already. Okay? So your job is to make the child a highly qualified servant of Krishna. So then to serve Krishna, you need to know how to read, you need to know how to write, you need to know how to do basic, you need education. And then then you see the child's propensity. And if they have a certain propensity, then you try to, nurture them in that direction, get them the education and training that they need according to their nature. But for the purpose of serving Krishna. It's like Arjuna is a devotee of Krishna. It's not that he didn't get education, right? He went to Dronacharya, he was in the military school there, he learned how to use weapons and all these things. Why? So that he can serve Krishna by fighting the battle of Kurukshetra. So everyone has their nature and their propensities. So see what your children's propensities are and then arrange for them to get the appropriate education. But all of that has to be done in the service of Krishna. That's the main thing. And then Prabhupada says that material well-being follows spiritual well-being, not the other way around. So yeah, the foundation has to be spiritual, and then whatever you build on that is going to be strong. Don't try to build because everything material is temporary and insubstantial. So if you try to even build a material life on a material foundation, the whole thing is going to be shaky and going to collapse. And if you try to build a spiritual house on a material foundation, that's also going to be a mess. So nothing grows nicely out of the material foundation. Material foundation is like a field that's been polluted, by like heavy metals and chemicals and things like that. And you try to grow your crop there. Nothing's going to grow. You can try all different kinds of seeds of all different kinds of plants, and nothing is going to grow on that field. But spiritual field is like a nice fertile ground, nice soft dark soil full of, nutrients and, fresh pure cow dung fertilizer. And then whatever you plant there is going to grow. You put the spiritual seeds, they're going to grow. Material seeds are going to grow. Everything's going to grow nicely on a spiritual foundation. So as parents, especially when the children are small, lay a very strong spiritual foundation, and whatever they do after that is going to be successful. But if you neglect the spiritual life and be like, oh, my children, they just need to focus on school. I'm not going to make them chant. I won't take them to temple. I'll just give them whatever to eat. And, nothing's going to grow, not materially, not spiritually, not nothing. They're just going to be stressed out and miserable kids. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let's go on here. Let's read, we'll just read the rest of the verses, 40 to 42. Ishvar.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Verse number 40. But ignorant and faithless person who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Verse number 41. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by the transcendental knowledge, is seated factually in this self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of birth or conqueror of riches. Verse number 42. Therefore, the doubts which have been arising in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga or bharatha, stand and fight. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So this is another metaphor that Krishna is using for knowledge is the jnana asina. Asina means sword, right? Like sword that you fight with. And so this knowledge is like a sword, like a weapon, and you can use it to slash through ignorance. It's the sword for killing the ignorance in our hearts. And so this is a good analogy for Arjuna because he's a warrior, right? He's familiar with weapons. So he's saying that, all right, Arjuna, you take this weapon of knowledge and you use it to kill your internal enemy of ignorance and doubts. Yeah, so cut through all the doubts. So this section is all about doubts. And Krishna says, for the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So in the beginning, it's okay to have some doubts and we can ask questions and resolve those doubts. But if after, asking questions and getting good answers and studying and hearing and, assimilating things, if we still go on doubting and doubting, then it's not helpful, right? Then it just leads to stagnation. So what Krishna is saying here is that we should not have blind doubt. So yeah, Krishna doesn't recommend blind faith. He says we should be Shraddhavan, we should possess faith, but not blind faith, right? Faith that comes from knowledge, because this section is all about knowledge, and faith comes from knowledge. So we shouldn't have blind faith, and we also shouldn't have blind doubt. Nothing should be blind. We shouldn't be blind from any perspective. We should have knowledge. If we have doubts, our doubts should be based on knowledge. Like, I know this about this person, therefore I doubt their character because I know that they did something that wasn't right. I know that they told a lie, or I know that they, had some deceptive dealings. So based on that knowledge, I doubt their character, right? I have suspicions about their ability to do a particular service. So if we have doubt, it should be based on knowledge. And faith should also be based on knowledge that, okay, I've heard this, it makes a lot of sense to me, I've tried it, it produced results, I experienced that it works, and therefore I have faith in it. So in any case, there needs to be knowledge. So unfortunately, in today's world, especially, in academia, amongst educated people in society, blind faith is condemned, but blind doubt is intellectually trendy, right? Like you have scientists and they'd be like, oh, I doubt that God exists. Well, what makes you doubt it? They don't have good reasons, but they just blindly doubt. And, a person may have a PhD in religion. They may have been practicing seriously in a religion for decades. They may have done extensive research in the field of religion. But if that person makes a statement that God exists, it's perfectly acceptable for people to just reject that without any proof, without any evidence to the contrary. Nothing. You can just, no, sorry. I don't care how many realizations you've had. I don't care how many epiphanies you had. I don't care how many degrees you've had. I don't know how much care how much I just don't believe in God, and that's it. So and that's fine. That's totally fine, right? That's like cool. But if there's a scientist who knows nothing about religion, who never studied it, never practiced it, never researched it, and he comes out and says God doesn't exist, then people don't question him. They're not going to ask him, oh, well, what do you know about God? What qualification do you have to make a religious claim? you know, if all you know is science, why don't you just stick to science and just leave God alone, right? And so there's like a double standard, because even if a very qualified person says that God exists, people won't believe him. And even if a totally unqualified person says God doesn't exist, people will believe him. So blind faith is condemned, but blind doubt is somehow or other fine. But what people don't understand is that whether you say God exists or God doesn't exist, it's a religious claim. So if a scientist who is not religious at all says God doesn't exist, he can't say that. He can't say that because he's not a religious person. So how can a person who is not religious make a religious claim? Right? It's just like if someone is take for example, like to say 2 + 2 is 4, or to say 2 + 2 is not 5, both are mathematical claims, right? Or to say how if a word is spelled this way, it's not spelled that way. In both cases, you need to know how to spell the word. If you don't know how to spell the word, what are you going to say? You can't say this is right. You can't say this is wrong because you just don't know. So like that, you know, somebody who's wise doesn't accept ignorant statements. They have to find out the facts. So knowledge is very important. Yeah. So we need knowledge to slash through these doubts, and we shouldn't have blind faith and we shouldn't have blind doubt. So in text 41, Krishna is saying that one who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits, whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is factually situated in the self. So by acting in devotional service, our doubts become cut, they become slashed, because we experience that the process works. This is the research. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we can say so many things about devotional service, about Krishna consciousness, but until you actually try it and experience it, then you might not have faith in it. But as soon as you try it, then all your doubts are going to go away. You can be like, wow, this is amazing. This actually works. And I believe in this process. Okay, so then Krishna concludes by saying, take this knowledge and cut through your doubts and do your duty. Okay? So we all have our services, we all have our duties to perform, and sometimes we don't want to do them. We have doubts about whether, does this chanting actually do anything? So it says, Prabhupada says, chant and be happy, but I'm chanting, I'm not happy, what's wrong? It doesn't work. Sometimes you might get skeptical like that. So, but we need to do things properly. So in this last purport, Prabhupada says, when we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided into two, namely understanding one's own self, one's constitutional position, and understanding the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So transcendental knowledge is two parts, understanding who we are as transcendental beings, and then understanding Krishna and Krishna's transcendental personality and the transcendental nature of his appearance and activities, and so forth. And he says that by studying the Bhagavad Gita, following the path of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, one can very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. We can understand the transcendental activities of the Lord, and we can also understand how to make our own activities transcendental, right? We heard that in 424, how to make everything, that when we do everything for Krishna as an offering to Krishna, then everything becomes spiritual, everything becomes transcendental. On the other hand, one who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless and is to be considered to be misusing the fragmental independence awarded to him by the Lord. In spite of such instructions, one who does not understand the real nature of the Lord as eternal, blissful, all-knowing personality of Godhead is certainly fool number one. Okay. One is therefore advised to study Bhagavad Gita or any scripture under a bona fide spiritual master with service and surrender. Okay, so we've heard about the glories of transcendental knowledge. It's a boat that takes us across material existence. It's a fire that burns up all of our karma. It's what else? It's a sword that cuts through all of our doubts. And without coming to the stage of transcendental knowledge, everything else is useless. But by continuing to cultivate transcendental knowledge, there are a lot of benefits. We get param shanti, we get supreme peace very quickly. And we understand who we are, we understand who Krishna is, we become engaged in pure devotional service, we become purified, right? That's one of the things about knowledge, is it's purifying. And our whole life becomes sublime. And then in due course of time, knowledge matures into love. And we develop that Krishna prema, love for Krishna. And we go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, questions, comments, reflections, anything about chapter 4? Chapter 4 done. That means, oh, yes. Prem, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, everyone. My question is about the prayer. As I observed that people are praying to God and expecting their things, as whoever wants something, or as I observed in a pray, they always want something. For example, the devotees want the association of Krishna and to be the association in Krishna, and the people who other people who are praying, so they all are in the want of something. Means they are all having something in their mind to ask God to have to bring. So do or is it possible to have prayer without asking or without expecting anything, being selfless?
You can. I mean, prayer that is without asking anything is basically you're, glorifying the Lord. Right? Like if you read the prayers of Queen Kunti in Bhagavatam, for example, she's just glorifying the Lord. A lot of the prayers of Brahma in the 14th, Canto 10, chapter 14, just glorifying the Lord, qualities of the Lord. So those are also prayers, but that's nice. But the Lord likes devotees to ask something, right? Like when Nrsingadev appeared and killed Hiranyakashipu, and then after Prahlad went there and was speaking prayers to appease him, then Nrsingadev was like, please ask some benediction. You didn't ask anything. Please ask something. And then Prahlad objects, actually. He says, my Lord, I'm not a businessman here. I'm not praying to you because I want something from you. Not that I give you some glorifications and you give me something. This is not what I'm doing. This is not our relationship. I'm just serving you. My only business is to glorify you. It's only to give and offer and love you. It's not to get something from you. But then Lord Nrsingadev insists. He says, no, I want to give you something. Please ask something. Right? And that's when Prahlad Maharaj asks for his father to be liberated. And then Nrsingadev is like, that's already done. Not only your father, but like so many generations on all sides. So the Lord, he likes the devotees to ask something. Because we want to give everything to Krishna. We just want to glorify him and offer to him and serve him and please him. But he also wants to reciprocate, right? he we don't want to take anything from the Lord. He also doesn't want to just take from the devotees. He wants to give too, right? It's give and take. Relationship means give and take. So we want to give to him, and he also wants to give to us. And so he's like, please ask for something because I want to give you something. And
According
so
to
our
my
goal is not to become desireless, right? We want to give up our material desires, but spiritual desires are good, right? If we're praying to Krishna, please give me realization. Please let me understand deeply what we're reading here in Bhagavad Gita. Please let me understand who I am as your eternal servant. Please purify me from my anarthas that are blocking me from loving you. Those are nice spiritual desires that actually please the Lord. Go ahead.
Yes, as I was saying, that we should ask a person that who don't know the desires we have in our mind, but God knows everything. Uh, as you told about the Pelhaja, so he was well associated and well in the knowledge, because he knew that nothing is to want, because God knows everything, that we pray and we don't pray. So to be selfless and to be not in a want of anything, just associating for the Krishna, for the love and for the glorification, I think this purpose could be the better one, because give and take process means we are associating Krishna for the want of something. So that becomes business, I think, somewhere.
I mean, not really, because those things are all for ultimately for Krishna's benefit, right? Let's say there's a married couple, right? So husband is out working and wife wants to cook dinner for the husband. She wants to make something special, but she's missing some ingredient, right? So she calls up the husband and says, all right, Krishna Prabhu, on the way home, can you just stop at the market and get this, such and such I need? And then he brings it home. And then she uses that ingredient and cooks the meal and, offers to Krishna. And then they take prasadam together. And so, it's like you're asking for something, but it's for something so that you can do better service. So like that, we're not asking for things for our sense gratification. We're asking for things like, I want to be purified of anarthas. I want to have love for you, Krishna. I want to have good association so that I can be more inspired. I want to, whatever, maybe you need something, I want an alarm clock so I can wake up early and be on time for Mangalarti, right? So there's some things that we might need in Krishna's service. So it's okay to ask for those things. It's literally all right, as long as we're not asking for a sense gratification. I don't know. Am I answering? Did I understand your question properly?
Yes, I'm understanding. One thing more, that as you said, that for the sense gratification. So as I observed and I personally felt that the prayers we are having to the God is dependent on the fear, because everybody has, if somebody is praying to the God, so in the want of something, the want means material things that he's having or he's dealing with. If he is in a sorrow, he's asking for the peace and happy mood. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain exactly, but it is.
Yeah. I mean, Krishna, like you said, Krishna knows what we need. So on the one hand, we don't need to ask, right? We actually don't need to ask Krishna for anything, material or spiritual, because he knows what we need and he's going to supply according to what he thinks is best anyway for devotees. Uh, but it's like prayer, it's like part of having a relationship, right? It's like we're talking to Krishna, right? Prayer means you're like taking the time and you're putting your attention and you're talking to Krishna. So, sometimes you're together with your friends. If you're just sitting, it's like you need to talk, you need to say something. And maybe they already know what you're thinking or they know about a situation, but anyways, you talk because that's how you exchange, that's how you have a relationship. For example, let's say if someone's birthday and you know it's their birthday and they know you know it's your birthday, but you still have to say happy birthday, right? If you don't say happy birthday, like they're not going to be happy. They know that you know it's their birthday, but still you need to say it. Why? Because it's a relationship. I don't know, it just nourishes the relationship. It opens up the door for a loving exchange. And yeah, that's what it is with Krishna. So he knows what we're thinking, but still when we say it, when we pray to him and reveal our hearts and minds and thoughts and feelings to Krishna, then it opens up the door for more reciprocation.
One last thing. My question that how to pray without asking anything. Whenever in my experience, and whenever I prayed, and everybody, as I have observed, that whenever they close their eyes and they pray, they always ask God to anything. But I just want to experience this, that without asking anything to God, how to pray, or what it will be.
Yeah, so what you should do is you can go to Bhagavatam and study the prayers. There are different sections of Bhagavatam. I can also share with you verses that are all prayers. You can read those prayers, and then whatever prayers you like, just learn those. You know, you can learn them in Sanskrit or English or whatever, and then you can just recite those prayers. Because those prayers that are, and that's one method of devotional service is we'll learn about in Nectar of Devotion, is reciting notable prayers, right? So offering prayers, just like Mangalarti, when we sing Guru Vastika, right? The spiritual master is the ocean of mercy. He's receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. He also extinguishes the blazing fire of our material existence. I offer my respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Right? That's the first verse. So you see, you're not asking anything. You're just glorifying the qualities of the spiritual master. You're praising him for his intimate connection with Krishna and his ability to extend Krishna's mercy to you. And you're offering your respectful obeisances to his lotus feet. So that's a prayer. You're not asking for anything. Like that. So you can go through the songs of the acharyas, you can go through the verses and prayers of great personalities, pure devotees from the pages of Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Even
Thank you
here
so much.
in Bhagavad Gita, there's some sections where Krishna's saying, you know, Param Dhamma, Param Brahma, you know, he's like, you are the supreme abode, the supreme shelter, right? So that's a prayer. He's not asking for anything.
I got it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Kishori,
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, my question is in chapter 4, test 40. Krishna is saying, but ignoring the faithful person who doubt the revealed scriptures do not end God consciousness, they fall down. So Mataji, how know that they are falling down?
How do they know they're falling down?
Yes.
How do we know if, so how do we know? How will you know if you're falling down? Or how do we know if they're falling down?
Yes.
Sound comes crash.
What's that?
I'm saying the sound comes crash and burn.
Boom. Splat. So falling down means that our consciousness becomes attracted to material things. It means we're more interested in watching TV than coming to Bhagavad Gita class. Right? That's a symptom of that we've fallen down. Yeah, we're more interested in material life than we are in spiritual life. That we want to do things that Krishna doesn't want us to do. Okay?
Okay, Mataji.
All right, thank you. Good question. Bhumika.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, my question is according book distribution. Can I ask?
Book distribution. Okay.
Mataji, I was reading your biography. You have to spend most of your time in book distribution. So I want to know how to distribute Srila Prabhupada books and how to convince anyone for read Bhagavad Gita and buy Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes people reject when you will go, but when we will go for preach and people will reject most of the time. I don't know how to convince them for read Bhagavad Gita and buy Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's normal that most people are going to reject because Prabhupada said if you're selling diamonds, you're not going to have many customers. So, first of all, expect that most people are going to say no. That's normal. That's not a problem. It's not your shortcoming. Then you have to, yeah, it's hard for me to say because, you know, I was distributing books at one time in one country to certain type of people. You have to find out what works, you know, locally for particular audience that you're approaching. So, you know, there's techniques that Vaisheshika Prabhu gives that work very well for, you know, at least in America, which is where he does book distribution. When he distributes books I've been on yatras with him to Jagannath Puri, and when he distributes there, he says totally different things, right? Because it's different audience, different people, different culture. You have to use different lines. So you have to find somebody who's successful distributing books where you are and find out from that person how to do it. That's the best advice
Okay,
I can give
Mataji.
for that.
Thank you, Mataji.
But the main things are that you should be enthusiastic, and also purity is the force. So try to be very pure, purify yourself, do your sadhana very nicely, chant very attentive rounds, read every day, pray, you know, be very intense about your sadhana to try to be as pure as possible. And then when you go out in book distribution, also be very pure in your motivation, right? Like focus on Lord Chaitanya's mission, Srila Prabhupada's mission, you know, forget about your own ego, forget about, you know, trying to get money or fame or, you know, name and fame for being a big book distributor or getting a big collection. And, you know, just focus on giving Krishna consciousness to save these, you know, souls who have fallen away from Krishna consciousness and being an instrument in the hands of the previous acharyas. Because we might think, I can't distribute books. I'm terrible. I'm no good at distributing books. And as long as we're thinking that then maybe we'll be limited by our own capabilities. But if we become humble and think, yeah, I can't do it, but Krishna can do it. And just take shelter of Krishna, pray to Krishna to be an instrument in his hands, then we become empowered. And that's really how we distribute books, is by Krishna's empowerment. But in order for the empowerment to come, it needs to be like, just like electricity is coming from the power plant down to the line. But in order for the electricity to flow very powerfully, like high voltage, there has to be no resistance. So the resistance that blocks our being empowered book distributors is the false ego, right? Is our pride and you know, material motivations and things like that. So yeah, we have to try to be very pure, kick out all the obstacles to that flow of mercy and flow of empowerment, and just be humble, instruments in Krishna's hands. Okay, and then as far as what you say to the people, you have some lines, some mantra that you say to people, you find out from somebody, you know, who's successful locally, and then you're going to be good. Okay, we better stop because it is 4 minutes past the stopping time already. Well, see you tomorrow. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Hari
Much,
Bol.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Om
Hare
Vishnu
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.